It started as a normal day, but then Karen's kids crossed the line and I took action. Michael Rodriguez had lived in his quiet suburban neighborhood for 15 years, always maintaining a pristine property that stood out for its meticulous landscaping. The house at 1247 Maple Grove Lane was a testament to his attention to detail, from the perfectly trimmed hedges to the meticulously painted trim that gleamed in the sunlight. But the backyard harbored a secret that had bothered Michael since the day he purchased the home. An aging, cracked swimming pool that seemed more like a relic of a bygone era than a functional recreational space. The pool had been a selling point when he first viewed the property 15 years ago. Back then, it had been a source of excitement for his then young family, a place where his children would spend countless summer days splashing and playing. But time had not been kind to the concrete structure. Years of wear, shifting ground, and minimal maintenance had transformed the once pristine pool into a liability. Deep fractures spider-webbed across its surface, and the surrounding decking had begun to crumble and sink, creating uneven and potentially dangerous terrain. Michael had tolerated the pool for years, investing in minor repairs and temporary fixes. But this summer, he decided enough was enough. The cost of continual maintenance, the safety concerns, and the aesthetic eyesore had finally pushed him to make a definitive decision. He would remove the pool completely and transform the backyard into a modern, low-maintenance landscape that would not only increase his property value but also provide a safer, more versatile outdoor space. Preparation had been meticulous. Michael wasn't the type to rush into home improvement projects without thorough research. He had spent weeks consulting with local contractors, obtaining the necessary permits from the city, and carefully planning every aspect of the pool removal. The city inspectors had already reviewed his plans, providing detailed guidance on proper demolition, waste removal, and ground restoration. The contractors he hired were professionals recommended by multiple neighbors, a team known for their precision and commitment to clean, efficient work. They specialized in pool removals and had an impressive portfolio of successful projects throughout the county. Michael had personally interviewed the project manager, discussing every detail from the type of machinery they would use to the specific methods of filling and compacting the ground after removal. What Michael didn't know was that his carefully planned project would soon become the epicenter of a neighborhood drama that would test his patience, professionalism, and sense of community. His immediate neighbor, Karen Thompson, was about to turn his straightforward home improvement project into an unexpected battle of wills. Karen had lived next door for almost as long as Michael, but their relationship had always been strained. Where Michael believed in quiet diplomacy and neighborly respect, Karen was known for her confrontational approach to virtually every situation. Her reputation in the neighborhood was legendary, a woman who seemed to find conflict in the most mundane circumstances and who viewed any change to the neighborhood's status quo as a personal affront. As the first construction vehicles arrived early that morning, Michael stood on his back patio, coffee in hand, watching the team set up. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden light over the soon-to-be-transformed backyard. He had no idea that within hours, his peaceful project would become the most talked-about event in the neighborhood, and that Karen Thompson would play a central role in the unfolding drama. The Thompson children, Emma, Jack, and Tyler, were notorious throughout the neighborhood for their unbridled energy and lack of supervision. Emma, the eldest at 12, had a mischievous glint in her eye that spoke of carefully calculated troublemaking. Jack, 10, was the middle child with an insatiable curiosity that often translated into destructive exploration. Tyler, the youngest at 8, seemed to take perverse pleasure in pushing boundaries whenever possible. On this particular morning, the sound of heavy machinery was like a siren call to the three children. Their mother, Karen, was typically engrossed in her morning routine, a complicated process of online shopping, neighborhood gossip groups, and performative outrage on various social media platforms. This meant the children were left to their own devices, a situation that rarely ended well for anyone in the vicinity. As the excavation equipment began to tear into the old pool, Emma, Jack, and Tyler crept closer to the construction site. The massive yellow excavator, with its long arm and powerful bucket, was like a mechanical monster to their young eyes. They watched with a mixture of fascination and barely contained excitement, inching closer despite the clear safety markers and warning signs. Michael noticed the children approaching and immediately became concerned. Construction sites were dangerous, and these kids seemed to have no regard for their own safety. He approached them, his voice firm but not unkind. "Hey there," he called out, "you need to stay behind this safety line. It's not safe to be this close to the equipment." Jack, never one to follow instructions, took a step closer. "What are you doing to the pool?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and challenge. Tyler giggled, picking up a handful of loose gravel from the ground. Emma, always the most brazen of the three, crossed her arms. "This was our favorite pool," she declared, as if Michael had personally committed some great transgression. "We used to swim here all the time." Michael tried to maintain his patience. "I understand," he responded carefully, "but the pool is old and needs to be removed. It's not safe anymore. He gestured to the visible cracks and deteriorating concrete, hoping to make his point clear. Tyler, seemingly bored with the conversation, began to throw the gravel he'd collected. Small stones pinged against the side of the excavator, catching the attention of the construction workers. One of the workers, a burly man named Frank, turned and shouted a warning, "Hey, keep the kids back." The commotion drew the children closer rather than pushing them away. Jack picked up a larger rock, his eyes gleaming with the potential for mischief. Emma watched with a mix of excitement and calculation, clearly enjoying the tension building around them. Michael stepped forward, positioning himself between the children and the construction equipment. "You need to go back to your yard," he said more firmly. "This is a dangerous area." Just then, a particularly loud mechanical groan from the excavator startled Tyler. In his surprise, he threw the rock he was holding not at Michael, but directly towards the ongoing excavation site. The stone sailed through the air, landing with a sharp clank against the side of the heavy machinery. Little did Michael know, this was just the beginning of a series of incidents that would transform his simple pool removal project into a neighborhood nightmare. The Thompson children were just getting started, and her mother Karen was about to make her dramatic entrance into the unfolding chaos. Karen, known throughout the neighborhood for her confrontational nature, stormed out of her house the moment she heard the construction noise. She immediately began criticizing Michael's project, claiming the noise was disturbing her children, and that he hadn't obtained proper permits. In reality, Michael had meticulously followed all local regulations and had the necessary documentation to prove it. The situation reached a critical point when Tyler Thompson discovered a small pile of landscaping rocks near the pool excavation site. His 8-year-old mind, fueled by a combination of boredom and mischievous intent, saw these rocks as the perfect projectiles. Jack, not to be outdone by his younger brother, joined in the impromptu rock-throwing contest. Frank, the lead construction worker, was the first to notice the escalating danger. "Hey," he shouted, stepping forward to intervene. "You kids need to back off right now." Emma, the eldest of the Thompson children, watched with a mixture of amusement and calculated indifference. While her brothers continued their rock-throwing spree, she maintained a strategic distance, ready to play the role of innocent bystander if confronted. Michael realized the potential for serious damage and stepped forward. "Stop," he called out, moving to position himself between the children and the expensive excavation equipment. His intention was purely protective, both for the children's safety and the costly machinery. Tyler, emboldened by the attention, grabbed a particularly large rock. With the uncoordinated throw of a child, he launched it toward the excavator. The stone sailed through the air, striking the vehicle's side panel with a resounding clang. Chips of paint flew, and a small dent became immediately visible. Frank's face turned several shades of red. "That's it," he yelled, reaching for his radio to call for additional support. Karen, still in the midst of her dramatic Facebook live stream, seemed more concerned with her narrative than her children's actions. "Look at how this man is threatening my innocent children," she proclaimed to her online audience, completely ignoring the destruction her kids were causing. Michael tried to maintain his composure. "Karen, you need to control your children," he said firmly. "They're damaging expensive equipment and creating a dangerous situation." Jack, not content with his brother's rock throwing, began picking up larger stones. Emma finally spoke up, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "We're just playing," she said. "What's the big deal?" The construction site was quickly becoming a battlefield. Rocks continued to fly, narrowly missing the workers and the machinery. Frank radioed his team, suggesting they might need to pause the project due to the safety concerns. Michael attempted to create a barrier between the children and the equipment. "Please," he said to Karen, "your children need to step back. This is a dangerous construction zone." But Karen was in full defensive mode. "Don't you dare tell me how to parent," she shrieked, her live stream capturing every dramatic moment. "You're the one causing a disruption in our neighborhood." Tyler, seemingly encouraged by the chaos, found a particularly large rock. With all the strength his small body could muster, he hurled it directly at the excavator's windshield. The rock struck with unexpected force, creating a spiderweb of cracks across the glass. Frank's radio crackled to life. "We're going to need to halt operations," he told his team, his voice tight with frustration. Michael stood in disbelief. What had started as a simple pool removal project was rapidly descending into complete chaos. The Thompson children continued their destructive play, Karen continued her dramatic performance, and the carefully planned excavation was now at a standstill. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of a confrontation that would soon involve local law enforcement and become the talk of the entire neighborhood. The tension reached a boiling point when Karen whipped out her smartphone, her manicured fingers trembling with indignation. The screen illuminated her face, casting dramatic shadows that seemed to match the theatricality of her impending actions. She tapped the emergency call button with a dramatic flourish, her eyes darting between Michael and her destructive children. 911, what's your emergency?" The dispatcher's calm voice crackled through the phone's speaker. Karen's voice rose an octave, her words tumbling out in a breathless, highly dramatized narrative. "I need to report a dangerous situation. There's a man threatening my children during a violent property dispute." She positioned herself strategically, ensuring her Facebook live stream continued to capture every moment of the unfolding drama. Michael stood in absolute disbelief. Frank and the other construction workers exchanged knowing glances. They had seen their fair share of neighborhood disputes, but this was quickly becoming something extraordinary. The Thompson children seemed to sense the escalating tension. Emma, the oldest, stepped back slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. Jack continued to pick up rocks while Tyler giggled, seemingly oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. "Ma'am," the 911 dispatcher asked carefully, "can you clarify exactly what's happening?" Karen's narrative became increasingly elaborate. "A man is destroying a historic neighborhood pool," she proclaimed, her voice dripping with manufactured drama. "He's threatening my children, and there are dangerous construction vehicles everywhere. My babies are in imminent danger." Michael couldn't remain silent any longer. "That's not true," he interjected, his voice calm but firm. "I have all the necessary permits. The pool is being professionally removed, and I've asked the children to stay back for their own safety." Frank, the lead construction worker, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we're licensed professionals," he said, pulling out his company identification. "We've been following all safety protocols." But Karen was in full performance mode. She angled her phone to capture Michael in the most unflattering light possible, her Facebook live stream now attracting a growing audience of curious neighborhood spectators. Comments began flooding in, some supportive, some questioning, some simply enjoying the unfolding spectacle. The 911 dispatcher, trained to handle various scenarios, remained professional. "We're dispatching an officer to assess the situation," she informed Karen. "Please remain calm and keep a safe distance." Tyler chose this moment to throw another rock, which sailed past Michael and landed near the excavation equipment. The sound of the rock clattering against the metal only added to the dramatic atmosphere. Emma, sensing the potential consequences, whispered to her brothers, "Maybe we should stop." But Jack, emboldened by the chaos, picked up another rock. Karen, still on the phone with 911, seemed more concerned with her performance than her children's actions. Michael pulled out his folder of permits, holding them up for anyone who might be watching. "These are all the official documents," he explained, his voice measured and calm. "I've followed every single regulation." The distant sound of police sirens began to grow louder. Neighbors started to emerge from their houses, drawn by the commotion. What had begun as a simple pool removal project was now a full-blown neighborhood spectacle. Little did Michael know the arrival of law enforcement would mark only the beginning of the most extraordinary day of his home improvement journey. Two police cruisers pulled up simultaneously, their lights casting a surreal blue and red glow across the quiet suburban street. Officers Martinez and Rodriguez, no relation to Michael, approached the scene with the practiced caution of professionals who had dealt with countless neighborhood disputes. Officer Martinez, a seasoned veteran with 15 years on the force, took the lead. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with keen eyes that seemed to take in every detail at once. His partner, Officer Rodriguez, was younger but equally observant, her hand resting casually near her utility belt. "Ma'am, sir," Officer Martinez addressed Karen and Michael. "We received a call about a disturbance." His tone was neutral, but his eyes quickly assessed the situation. The construction site, the damaged equipment, the three Thompson children who were now suspiciously quiet. Karen immediately launched into her prepared speech. "These officers will see how this man is terrorizing our neighborhood," she declared, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. She held up her phone, still streaming live to her Facebook audience, capturing every moment of what she hoped would be Michael's public humiliation. Michael stood perfectly still, his folder of permits clutched in his hand. "I have all the necessary documentation," he said calmly, extending the papers toward the officers. "This is a fully permitted pool removal project." Officer Rodriguez accepted the documents, carefully examining each page. Her trained eyes scanned the official stamps, permit numbers, and detailed site plans. Frank, the construction foreman, stepped forward with additional documentation, proof of insurance, safety certifications, and the company's extensive credentials. The Thompson children watched the interaction with a mixture of excitement and growing concern. Emma, the oldest, sensed that their mother's dramatic performance might not go as planned. Jack and Tyler shifted uncomfortably, no longer finding humor in their earlier rock-throwing escapades. "Can you explain the damage to the equipment?" Officer Martinez asked, pointing to the dented excavator and the cracked windshield. Frank stepped forward. "The children were throwing rocks," he explained, showing the officers several large stones scattered near the construction site. "They've been creating a significant safety hazard." Karen's live stream began to lose momentum. Viewers in the neighborhood Facebook group started posting comments questioning her version of events. "Where are the kids' parents?" One comment read, "Sounds like someone needs to supervise better," wrote another. Officer Rodriguez approached the Thompson children. "Did you throw rocks at the construction equipment?" she asked directly, her tone firm but not intimidating. Emma looked down. Jack shuffled his feet. Tyler, the youngest, mumbled something unintelligible. Michael remained composed, allowing the officers to handle the situation professionally. He knew that getting emotional would only play into Karen's narrative. Officer Martinez turned to Karen. "Ma'am, making a false 911 call is a serious offense," he explained carefully. "We take emergency resources very seriously. This appears to be a completely legitimate construction project with all proper permits." Karen's confident demeanor began to crack. The live stream was no longer going according to her script. Her followers were now seeing a different side of the story, one where she appeared to be